On this day, October 26, 1998, Hurricane Mitch in Honduras. Hurricane Mitch, one of the most violent hurricanes of the century, occurred in northeastern Honduras on October 26, 1998, and traveled along the north coast with destructive winds of approximately 250 kilometers per hour and torrential rains that lasted 4 days due to the slow displacement of the hurricane. On October 30, Mitch, after affecting the Bay Islands, suddenly headed south, penetrating Honduran territory and rapidly transforming into a tropical storm. This storm, equally unpredictable, unleashed torrential rains exceeding 600 millimeters for 5 consecutive days, which led to the massive overflow of rivers and caused severe flooding in the 18 departments of the country, affecting in particular the entire Atlantic coast, the central area, including Tegucigalpa, the capital of Honduras, and the southern zone. The terrible hurricane left nearly 1,500,000 people affected, including 5,657 dead, 8,058 missing, 12,272 injured, and 285,000 people who lost their homes and had to take refuge in more than 1,375 temporary shelters. It is also estimated that 60% of the country's road infrastructure was seriously damaged, as 424 roads and 107 roads were rendered useless and 189 bridges destroyed, leaving 81 cities cut off to a greater or lesser degree. On the other hand, according to data from the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, 70% of the crops were destroyed or seriously affected, mainly coffee, banana, and pineapple, losses that represent an amount of more than 800 million in the agricultural sector alone. In terms of healthcare infrastructure, 23 of the 28 hospitals suffered partial or total damage to their water distribution systems. 123 health centers were seriously damaged, of which 68 could no longer function, while more than 100,000 people required medical attention. Damage to educational infrastructure was also significant. Approximately 25% of schools throughout the country were damaged, meaning that more than 100,000 primary school children were left without school, and at least 30,000 secondary students were unable to continue their studies, as nearly 2,000 teachers were unable to teach, the suspension of which together affected nearly 150,000 students. In many cases, healthcare had to be improvised in churches, schools, stadiums, tents, and other facilities. Mobilizing healthcare brigades. After Mitch, a 20% increase in case of diarrhea in children under 15 years of age was reported. Up to the end of 1998, approximately 50,000 cases of acute diarrhea had accumulated, more than in 1997. In addition, a total of 306 cases of cholera was reported in 1998. Although only 3 clinical epidemiological cases were recorded after the hurricane. As a sequel to Mitch, there was an epidemic outbreak of 172 cases of leptospirosis, of which 28 were diagnosed by laboratory and the rest clinically and epidemiologically. By the end of 1998, 75 cases of dengue hemorrhagic fever had accumulated and been laboratory confirmed, and another 4 cases in the first 5 weeks of 1999. The top 5 causes of morbidity as a result of the hurricane were respiratory infections, acute diarrhea diseases, dermatological infections, conjunctivitis, and bronchial asthma. Extensive flood damage was also reported in the departments of Colón, Atlántida, and Cortés. Dozens of cities were cut off by falling bridges and the destruction of roads and highways. Electricity and running water supplies were suspended in almost all communities in Gracias a Dios, Colón, Lloro, and Atlántida. On October 30, Mitch changed course east to west to head unexpectedly south, entering the mainland and becoming a tropical storm that same day. His trajectory remained unpredictable as he traveled through the center of the country in a north-south direction, traveling in a single day through the departments of Colón, Olancho, Lloro, and Francisco Morazán. Then it continued to the southeast, approaching the department of El Paraíso, bordering Nicaragua. When everything suggested that he was finally moving away from Honduran territory, he returned with destructive force, passing through the capital of the country again, heading west towards the departments of La Paz, Intibucá, Lempira, and Ocotepeque, all of them bordering El Salvador, to finally leave Honduras on November 1st. During those days, already transformed into a tropical storm, Mitch unleashed torrential rains that exceeded 600 millimeters in 5 consecutive days, causing the widespread overflow of rivers and causing serious flooding in the 18 departments of the country, seriously affecting the entire Atlantic coast, the central area including the city of Tegucigalpa, and the departments of Choluteca and Valle on the Pacific coast. At the most important airports, operations were suspended and all the major cities were cut off, as land transport was made impossible both by the destruction of roads and by the large area of territory flooded with more than 1.5 meters of water. The supply of drinking water was cut off for more than 90% of the population, and the supply of electricity throughout the country was drastically restricted. This was a day in the history of Honduras.